Hello and welcome to Top10List.org, where you get a world of knowledge in 10 simple points. Today's episode, we're going to talk about top 10 books. So all you bookworms, get your glasses out, turn the page, and let's go ahead and start at number 10 with one of my favorites, J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. This massive trilogy has been made into a film series, which were huge successes. However, although they were not quite close to the books from which they were adapted, some parts of the story were left out. When you read them, you see the allegory of Europe and the Second World War, and the orcs and elves are much better in your imagination than they were on screen. I can kind of agree and disagree with that statement. However, Tolkien was very erudite, and he made up the language of the elves for this story. Elvish is actually a language that he compiled together from his imagination, and it's great. If you buy the trilogy as 3 books rather than as one massive volume, you are more likely to read all of the story, and it is really worth reading it all. And I would probably start with this book before reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which brings us to our number 9 spot, J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. Now, this was originally a story for children, but everyone should read it, as it is an allegorical tale, which is the background for Tolkien's amazing trilogy, The Lord of the Rings. In this book, Bilbo Baggins is a young hobbit who finds the ring that is at the center of the trilogy. It explains how Frodo came to be the keeper of the ring, and introduces the wizard Gandalf, who delighted all the young hobbits with his display of fireworks at hobbit festivals. You could read it to your children, as it is a great book to read aloud. Number 8, John dos Passos USA. This is a huge tome which can be read as a history of the United States as well as a novel. If you are American and haven't read it, then perhaps you should. If you are from another nationality, then it is not only entertaining but educational. Number 7, Orphan Pamuk, My Name is Red. Pamuk is a noble book in literature, and the best translation of this work is done by Maureen Freely. My Name is Red is a detective story with several differences, one of these being that it is set in Istanbul in the dim and distant past and centers on the rivalry of miniaturists who work for the sultans. It is full of intrigue and keeps you guessing about the identity of the murderer. Number 6, Thomas Pynchon's Gravity Rainbow. This is one of Pynchon's earlier work and is a surrealist masterpiece. It is very well written and combines so many themes that you have to read it more than once to take in the wonderful enormity of it. If you've never read this work, then it's a pretty good starting point. Number 5 is Norman Mailer's The Naked and Dead. This novel is a mixture of both fact and fiction, and is one of the best to have come out of the Second World War. It is an honest account of a soldier's feelings and portrays the horror and futility of war extremely well. Many people dislike Mailer because of his personal life, but his novels are well worth reading. Number 4 is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. This is one we all know pretty well. It'll take you into the world of the minor gentry of England in the 18th century and displays the values of time with a wit and incisiveness that has not been matched by many authors to date. Jane Austen wittily writes about the morals of her time, and her characters come to life on the page. If you enjoyed the films of the book, do yourself a favor and actually read the original work. So much of the humor is actually kind of lost on screen. Number 3 is Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. This is a superb tale of guilt and the need to find redemption, which was the starting point for one of Woody Allen's films, Match Point. If you love the film but you haven't read this, then you should, as it is much better than Allen's film at delving into the recesses of a murderer's mind and his struggle to be punished. Number 2 is Dantes' The Divine Comedy. This is one of the best books to come out of the Renaissance, and it is remarkable work, probably one of my favorite literary masterpieces of the ancient days. You go through hell and the inferno to reach paradise and encounter the characters from mythology and Homer on the way. Number 1 is Homer's Odyssey, making a top spot on our list. This epic poem has been the starting point for so many Hollywood films, and it has carried on through the ages of history as being a definite mythological fictional masterpiece, and has interested people for centuries. If you haven't read it, then get a modern translation and see the truth behind Hollywood blockbusters. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Top 10 for the Top 10 Books. Go ahead and click subscribe, give us a like, leave a comment below, tell us what you thought, and join us again for another edition of Top 10 Lists.